Let me display the drill holes by the gold values and see what we can do next. Database, display drill holes. Table, assay, filled gold values, no constraint, apply. Looks like our gold values are not all that clear to view, so I'll just increase the thickness. Database, display drill hole styles, assays, gold values. I'll not worry myself with 0 to 0.2 range because it's waste, so I'll increase the thickness for the other grays. Go to line, click on it and click on properties. So I'll increase the thickness to 4. This will provide us with a clearer view of the assays. Okay, our assays are now very clear to view. Now we will section and digitize. When I say sectioning is just providing a mirror image of the drill holes when cut through by a plane. And digitizing will be outlining or demarcating the ore trend or mineralization. And then we will create a 3-dimensional solid model of the ore. And this will give us the shape and size of the ore depending on how you interpret and digitize your data geologically. Okay, now before you section, you have to know the direction in which your drill holes were drilled, whether to the east or west. By looking at our drill holes, when I zoom to the data extent, we realize that this is an oblique type of drilling, meaning the holes are slanted or tilted. Assuming these holes were drilled in the east or west direction, we could have displayed a 2-dimensional grid to view a particular northern. These are the northerns and these are the easterns. We could have displayed this grid and use a particular northern. But looking at our holes, none of the holes is falling on a particular northern. So we would have to define our section by a graphical method. Okay. There are several ways that you can define your section or provide a mirror image of the drill holes. You can section graphically, you can section by northern, by eastern, or by elevation. Okay, so we begin by section and then we will go ahead and digitize. You can click on this icon, define section, or you can go to sections menu and click on define. Okay, zoom to section plane to show all drill holes. Yes, so this box will remain checked. Show section plane, no, and this is not an interactive method. Here on the window we have section define method. As I just said, you can section by the northern, eastern elevation or by best fit of line. Because this is an oblique type of drilling, we will use the graphical method. And whenever you define a section method, you specify a distance forward of it and a distance backward of it where you can view other information or capture information. So I will want to capture information 5 meters forward of the plane, 5 meters backward of the plane. The section bar here we have interval and range. Whenever you select range, you have to provide a start value, an end value, and an increment. But we are going to use an interval. That's from one section plane to the other, the distance that you would want to travel. So I would want to travel a step distance of 10. So when I start from 0, the next distance will be 10, 20, 30, and so on and so forth. There are no off section holes, so we'll not worry ourselves with this tab. Okay, so I'll click apply. Now it's shown in the status area. Click and drag to define the cutting plane. Whenever you are sectioning by a graphical method, your section line should be such that it will go in the direction or it will go along the direction of the drill holes. Looking at our drill holes, the holes are going this way. So we would have to click and drag to define a cutting line such that it will be along the direction of the drilling. Okay, so I'll do that right away. I will click and I will drag a line here, passing through the drill hole trace and the colors. Then I'll leave it. Okay, we have 2 holes here which is defining off section, so I'll just close the section and redefine it. I'll just zoom and define my section again the values are still, the parameters are still in there, so I'll just click apply. Then I'll click and drag to define a section plane. Okay, so this is my first section. After sectioning, the assay or the gold values will give us the idea of how the ore or mineralization is trending. So looking at these holes, this is how the ore is trending. So we will digitize or demarcate this area as our ore, and this is based on your own discretion or how you interpret your data geologically. Someone may digitize this and include this. By so doing, you may be diluting the ore with this waste zone. Okay, so I would want to digitize this one because it's not all the grades that I'll be able to capture. I'll leave this one out and digitize only this portion. Okay, now looking at this drill hole, no information or no data about the ore was captured here, but because we want to create a nice model, I will extend my ore zone to go beyond here, just to say that if this hole has captured part of the ore, it would have been along the trend of this one. Okay, so I'll begin by creating or digitizing the ore zone, and this is a new thing that we are going to do all together. So we would want to create a new layer and save everything on it. So you go to the layers pane and click on the new button. Then we'll give it a name, or outline. It has already been entered, so I'll click apply and the name will appear in the layers pane. Okay, so I'll begin by clicking on this icon, start a new segment for digitizing. I'll click on it, then I'll click on this icon, digitize a point at cursor location. Now when you are digitizing in relation to drill holes, whenever you want to click to or you want to snap to a drill hole, a point on the drill hole, you right click. Any other place aside the drill hole, you will left click. Okay, so I'll click on this icon, then I'll come here. Someone may choose to start digitizing here halfway between these two holes because no information was revealed from this drill hole. So I'll do this, right click, left click, come down here, right click to hit on the point, come here, then I'll close my segment. Okay, see, I've neglected this grade because when I come down here and include it, I will be diluting the ore. Okay, I'm sure it makes sense. So I will just extend this point to go beyond, to take this part of the drill. So I'll go to edit, point, move. So I'll just move these points with the notion that this drill hole may have captured an information here. The reasons may be that the sampling was not done well, or that particular drill hole did not capture any information, or the assay values were not reported. Okay, so I'll just extend it. Whenever you are digitizing an ore zone in relation to drill holes, you have to extend it to go beyond the drill hole colors. That's the topography. Okay, so that's my first ore outline. So I'll press escape, then I'll close this segment, I'll zoom to data extent, then I'll come to this drill hole and I'll create a section line on it. Section, the parameters are still in there, so I'll click apply and I'll come here, I'll click and drag. Beautiful. So I'll digitize my next outline. This is my own geological interpretation, so your sense of digitizing may differ from mine. Okay, so I'll just edit the point. The thickness of your segment should be equal to the thickness of the gold values from the drill holes. You press escape to exit a command. Because it's shown in the status area, I can press enter and it will be active again. Okay, escape. I think this is okay for this segment. Then I'll close it, zoom to data extent. Then I'll go to the next drill hole, which is this one. So I'll click my section plane, apply. Then I'll click and drag to define my section line. Start a new segment, digitize a point. Click on this icon to close. Okay, I will edit my point to make it very nice. Alright, I think this is okay for this section. I'll close it, zoom to data extent. Then I'll do for this drill hole. As you can see, there are grays here and here, but when I include them in my ore digitizing, I may be diluting the ore, so I will only digitize this zone for this particular section. Okay, I'll close this segment. Then I'll go to the next drill hole section, apply. Then I'll click and drag to pass through the drill hole trace line in the colors. Okay, here we can have two trends of mineralization. We have this one and this one. That's supposed to mean that there was a bifurcation or a division of the ore here. Okay, so we are going to have two zones for this particular section. Right click, left click. Now close it. Let me edit the points. So I'll have two zones here. When you are digitizing, try as much as possible as you can to move in the clockwise direction, because when you are creating a solid model, it is required that your segments be clockwise. Let me increase the length of this one. Okay. I'll close it. Okay. When you want to zoom in or out whilst digitizing, you can press the F1 on the keyboard to freeze the digitize command so that you can zoom in or out. I'll do the same for this drill hole. So I'll not include this grid because I'll be diluting it if I do that. I'll close this section. I'll zoom to data extent. Then I'll go to the next drill hole, which is this one, section apply. You have to try your best to get a very nice model for the ore, because this will be used as the domain for that particular area where you drilled your holes. All that we are doing is trying to mark out or outline the ore zone based on our grids which we have displayed. This will be okay for this segment. your width of the segment should be approximately or equal to the size of the grace. That's the width of the grace. We only have one grade here. We still digitize it because it's an area of interest. As you can see, there are no grace from these drill holes, so we will not digitize any ore outline here. Now, from the way we've digitized our segment, we realize that some of the segments are longer than the other, and this will make our model to affect our model. So we have to try as much as possible to get equal length of the segments so that our model will be very nice. Someone may choose to be okay with this one, but I will want to edit it. I will want to edit this one so that our model will be very nice when we create it. So I will increase and decrease some of the length. Okay, so I'll increase this one a little bit. So I'll go back to that section. Now when you are sectioning again, your section line should pass through the digitized segment. Otherwise, when it cuts across it, your segment will not be closed. It will be viewed as a cut segment. Okay. So I'll click and drag it exactly. Should pass through the segment line. Then I will increase the length by moving the points. Just trying to edit these segments. Escape. So I'll close this segment. Okay, so the length has been increased. Then I'll do the same thing for this one. Okay. So I'll increase the length of this one too. edit point move. I'll increase this one to a little bit. This is okay. Then I'll close the segment, zoom to data extent. Then I'll increase this one to edit point move. We are just trying to make the length of the segment uniform, so that once we create our model, we wouldn't have some crooked edges. Okay, I think I have to decrease this one, it's too long. So I'll just move the points down a little bit. Okay. And I'll increase the length for this one. See, my section line is passing exactly on the segment line. As I said earlier on, this is my own geological interpretation. Okay. So I'll increase this one to a little bit. This is where we had the bifurcation or division of the ore. I think this is okay. I'll close it. Let me increase this one again. I want the segments to be uniform in terms of their length. That's why I'm doing all this. Okay. Then I will increase this one. Okay, looks like it's too long, so I'll decrease it. Okay, this should be all right. Then I'll increase the length for this one too. Still short, so we would have to increase it. When you are not okay with the line, you just press escape and specify the function again. Okay, I'll increase the length for this one. We are almost through. See, because I did not cut the segment well, it looks like an open segment, so I'll close it and go back. So make sure your section line is passing through the digitized segment. Okay, so we are done. It looks like our segments are now uniform. They are equal in length. So we'll create a solid model out of this one. These are our segments outlining the trend of the mineralization. So we'll create a solid model from these strings to represent the ore or the domain of the area.